Chapter 15. Cara. Cara couldn't believe she hadn't remembered the man immediately when she'd seen him. Of course, he'd looked different than the last time she had seen him, wild-eyed and ranting as security dragged him away. But there had been so few interruptions at their lab while they had been in the lab that he should have come to mind immediately.
"So who is he?" Cole asked.
"His name is David Grissom. He was an intern at the lab shortly before we went undercover." Cara paused as the past flooded into her mind.
"What are you working on, Lieutenant Hunter?"
Cara smiled at the young intern. He'd been placed with them only a week ago, but he seemed eager to learn. The shaggy cut of his sandy brown hair added to his youthful appearance, as did his doe-like brown eyes, though they were often hidden behind his glasses. "I'm trying to isolate parts of the virus so I can study possible vaccine options."
"That sounds fascinating. Have you found anything yet?"
He pushed his glasses up on his nose, and Cara couldn't help noticing that he seemed nervous. But perhaps what she thought was nerves was really excitement.
"Not yet," Steve piped up from the other side of the room. "This virus is proving to be tricky."
David swallowed, and it seemed almost audible to Cara as she watched a droplet of sweat trickle down the side of his face. It wasn't that warm in the room, so why was he sweating?
"But you're going to, right? Soon?"
His voice had risen higher than his normal pitch, and Cara took a step toward him. "David, are you okay?" He turned wild eyes on her, and then took a deep breath, as if realizing how crazy he sounded.
"I'm fine, of course, just hoping we find a vaccine soon."
Cara glanced over at Steve and saw him moving his hand slowly under his desk. Malone had installed panic buttons under their desks that allowed them to alert security if anyone got into the lab who wasn't supposed to. Cara had never thought they would actually have to use the alarm, much less against one of their own. She gave him an imperceptible nod, her silent assent, before turning back to David. Perhaps if she could defuse this, they could all laugh about it later. "David, what's going on? We told you this was a long process when you first joined us." He ran his hand through his hair and took another shaky breath. After a moment, he appeared to calm slightly.
"I know, but I thought it would be faster. People's lives are at stake, you know?"
"We do know, and we are working as hard as we can." She looked up as security entered the lab. "David, these men are going to escort you out of here for now. I think you need a break." His eyes turned wild again as the security officers stepped toward him.
"What? No, I have to stay. I have to know what's going on."
Cara and Steve watched with wide eyes as David continued to yell and fight the guards as they dragged him out of the room.
"Well, that was weird,"
Steve said when the silence descended again. To say the least, what was that all about? Cara couldn't shake the feeling that there was more going on than what it seemed.
"Who knows? Maybe the pressure of college got to him."
He bent back over the microscope, as if that was the answer, and therefore the conversation was over. Maybe, but Cara wasn't so sure. She'd have to make sure Malone knew about this.
"And did you tell Malone?"
Cole asked when she finished recounting the story. "Yeah, he seemed surprised by David's actions, but that was the last time we saw David, and the last time we had an intern. I always assumed Malone fired him. In fact, it was shortly after that incident that Malone informed us we had a leak and needed to separate. I need to call him and let him know. Plus, I'd like to make sure CDC knows about our situation."
Cole nodded. "I'll give you some space while I check on the women."
"Thank you. I appreciate it." Cara watched Cole disappear down the hallway before pulling out her cell phone. Questions raced through her head as she dialed Malone's number. Who was David really? And had he stolen their research? Had he been the one to kill Steve?
Cara.
Malone's deep voice flooded the phone after the second ring. He didn't even bother with the normal pleasantries.
Have you found anything out?
A little. There's a man who's taken ill here, and I'm fairly certain it's David Grissom.
Who?
The word came out a little squeakier than Cara would have expected. David Grissom. You know the intern we had for about a week? I assumed you fired him after he got all weird that one day.
Oh, right.
Something in his voice didn't sit right with Cara, but she wasn't exactly sure what it was.
You say he's there?
He is, and as he appears to be the first person sick, I'm fairly certain he was trying to poison the town, though his case seems advanced. He was seen in a food garden with a watering can. The can was positive for melioidosis.
The first? How many are there?
Cara narrowed her eyes as her instincts prickled even further. Why did he sound more excited than concerned? None so far, but there were several elderly ladies who were in the garden after David. They've just come in for testing. I was about to call the CDC and inform them of our cases, unless that's something you need to do?
The CDC, yeah, I can call them, but they generally don't come out until there's officially an outbreak, and with your one case, I don't think it qualifies yet. However, there is guidance you can follow posted on their website.
Anger flooded Cara. What? Do they know how fast this virus can spread if it gets in the food or water supply? And how deadly it is? By the time we have an outbreak, it may be too late to do anything about it.
It's procedure, Cara, but I'll call them now that you have a confirmed patient, and we'll see what they say.
Please, I need some help here, Malone. Without Steve, I'm now trying to find a vaccine, all on my own, along with trying to save the people of this town. Were you able to secure me any more help yet?
Not yet. You just focus on the vaccine. I'll take care of the rest.
Cara rolled her eyes. How exactly was he going to take care of the rest from his office across the country? Okay, Malone, I have to go. I'm going to check on the women, but I'll call back in later. As she hung up the phone, she couldn't help but wonder if Malone was distracted by something where he was. He certainly hadn't seemed overly concerned with her plight here, and now she felt more alone than before. At least Cole seemed to believe her and had stopped looking at her like she might be a suspect. In fact, a few times she had even caught him looking at her like he considered her a friend. Or more. Whoa, she had to get her thoughts under control. Cole might be easy on the eyes, but she could not be thinking about that right now. Not with a virus spreading through her town.